All right, welcome everyone. My name is Michael Williams. It's good to have everyone here today. We'll just take less than a minute to make sure that everyone is able to hear and see me okay. And once again, we want to thank you all for coming and want to welcome you. We also want to ask that you share with us in the chat area, share with us where you're from and what you do for a living, okay? So if you'll go ahead and do that, that'll be extremely helpful. Let me just get this over here so I can monitor what's going on. Today, we're going to be talking about how to quickly recover when you get stuck. That's the topic of today's webinar. So just a couple of logistics. If you have questions and you're able, that is on the device that you're using, if you have questions, we ask that you go ahead and type those questions into the Q&A, the question and answer area. So there should be a little button somewhere on your screen where you can type in your questions in the question and answer area. We prefer for you to put them there rather than in the chat box. It's easier for us to monitor your questions, and we can also share with you our answers. So we have a couple of people here who are assisting us. We have Sakshi, our assistant speech coach, and then we have Myra, who's also going to be helping you with some of the questions that you may have. And if they're not able to answer them, then they'll make sure that I answer them. The way that we're going to do this today is we're going to do about 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes of just pure content. And then after that, I'm going to save the rest of the hour for questions and answers, right? And just a few other things, okay? So first 30 minutes, pure content. So I'm not going to be answering any questions for the most part during that time. And then after that, we'll be taking a look at your questions and giving you some answers, okay? So let's just take a look over here at the chat to see, make sure that we can see everything. So if you're not able to hear or see me, go ahead and type that into the chat area, and someone will try to assist you with that. But I believe that everything is broadcasting successfully, that is the sound as well as the video. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Again, for those of you that don't know, my name is Michael Williams. I'm the founder of the Start Speaking Training Center and the Pro 90D Speech System, author of a book, a little guide entitled Don't Try to Stop Stuttering, Replace It. Today, I'm going to be talking about a topic that is very, very common, right? It's very common because absolutely everyone who speaks gets stuck. Everyone who speaks gets stuck sometimes, right? People just, it's a normal disfluency, right? A normal disfluency. Sometimes we just get stuck. So we're not talking about how to eliminate getting stuck, because that's virtually impossible, right? There might be times when you speak and you don't get stuck, but at some point during your life while you're speaking, you're going to get stuck. It doesn't matter, again, if you've never struggled with your speech, or if you do struggle, you're going to get stuck. So the question is, how quickly can you recover? And we'll talk about why recovering quickly is very important to your speech. How quickly can you recover? So what I'm going to be doing is giving you 3 very concrete strategies that you can implement immediately. 3 concrete strategies that you can implement immediately to help you recover more quickly when you get stuck. All right. So the first thing that we want to talk about is, why is recovering quickly so important? When you learn, now listen, when you learn to recover quickly when you get stuck, it will help you improve your smoothness and your fluency more rapidly, right? When you learn to recover quickly when you get stuck, it will help you improve your speech more rapidly. So let's look at the opposite of that. When you don't recover, because remember, everyone's going to get stuck, right? So while you're on this journey of improving your speech, working on your speech, You're going to be getting stuck along the way, maybe a little more than what you'd like, right? But you're going to be getting stuck. And we're working towards decreasing the amount of times that you get stuck, but you're going to get stuck. So while you're working towards that, if you can recover quickly, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to be more inspired and more motivated to continue along that journey. If you don't recover quickly, you're going to be more frustrated and more stressed and more anxious and more worried, right? And chances are you're going to want to give up more often. So recovering quickly is vital to the health of your speech. Does this make sense? So it's very important that you learn how to recover quickly when you get stuck. All right. Now, why is it that some people don't recover quickly? So again, everyone gets stuck. So why is it that some people don't recover quickly and some people do? Well, one reason that some people don't recover quickly is because they don't know how, right? They simply don't know how. And so they do what they've naturally been doing. You're going to hear me use this word a lot today, and that is default, right? Default thinking or default behavior. So they default to a certain way of thinking and a certain way of speaking and behaving. And that default is often to dwell on, to worry about, to contemplate, to reflect on the fact that they just got stuck. And when that happens, what that does is it deteriorates the rest of their speech, okay? So then one reason that some people don't recover more quickly is that they simply don't know how, and so they're in default mode. They just dwell on it, they think about it, and it makes their speech worse. A second reason is that they may know how, or they may have an idea, but they haven't turned it into a habit. So in other words, I'm going to share with you those 3 strategies in just a few moments, but you have to turn those strategies, the actions that I'm going to be asking you to take, you have to turn those into what? Into habits. So if you haven't turned it into a habit, then you may have the knowledge and the information, but you may not be able to implement it all the time because it hasn't become a habit. So 2 reasons why many people don't recover quickly is 1, they don't know how, and 2, they may know how, but it hasn't become a habit. So what that means is that just because I'm giving you the information, just because you have the information, doesn't make it work, right? What makes it work is you. You have to implement it. You have to actually get out there and speak to more people and implement these strategies so that they work for you. Does this make sense? Okay, so what are the 3 strategies? Well, what I'm going to do is give you a strategy, and then within that strategy, I'm going to give you an action that you can take, something that you can do or say or think to help you to implement that strategies. And these strategies are all tied together, okay? But that doesn't mean you can't use them separately, but often you'll use all 3 or you'll use at least 2 of them. So I'll give you strategy and then I'll tell you how. So the first strategy that we're going to be looking at has to do with this. We're going to call this the bump in the road strategy. Bump in the road strategy, right? Bump in the road strategy. So what do we mean by that? The bump in the road strategy means that, listen, it means that you see getting stuck as simply a bump in the road, right? So this is a shift in your perspective about what it means to get stuck. And every strategy that I share with you today has been taken from the actual experience of my clients, right? So every strategy has been tested by people like you. Now, I don't have data because we didn't test it in a controlled environment, but I've been doing this for several years now, and I've been speaking myself for many years. I just turned 50, so I've been speaking, I've been making my living as a speaker for 20 some years. So every strategy that I share with you has been tested. That is, my clients have shared that this works for them. This consistently works for them. And one such strategy is changing your perspective, right? Your perception, if you will, of what it means to actually get stuck. Because when other folks get stuck, that is, people that don't see themselves as people that struggle with their speech, people that stutter or stammer or whatever it is, people that don't struggle with that, when they get stuck, most of the time they don't even notice it. They don't even know that they got stuck. They're speaking, they get stuck, and they double back, they repeat things, they throw in an ah or and they just keep going. Right? It has no real impact on them, no psychological or emotional impact. Okay, and so therefore they just keep rolling, they just keep talking. Okay, it's very important. So when you change your perception of what's actually happening, hey, just got stuck, it's like a bump in the road, then it begins to diminish the emotional impact, psychological impact that it has on your speech. Now, I'm not saying to completely ignore the fact that you're struggling with your speech and don't do anything about it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying do something to improve your speech, but while you're on that journey, like you're on a road, you're going someplace, you're on a journey, you see a sign that says bumpy road ahead, right? You're going to experience bumps. So you know, I'm going to experience bumps while I'm on this journey, but not forever. Maybe it's for the next few miles. So you understand that. You don't get frustrated. You don't get upset and angry. You don't quit. You don't say, oh, there's too many bumps in this road, I'm going to go back. No, you say, I know I've got to go over these bumps in order to get to where I want to get. So you go over the bumps and you keep moving. Here's what happens to many people, why they don't recover as quickly, is they go over the bump. Now, let me just ask you first, let me ask you this. Have you ever gone over a bump? You're driving, you're riding on your bike or whatever. You go over a bump. Have you ever stopped your car, put it in reverse, and backed up over the bump again? And then go back over the bump again. You just keep backing up over the bump. Say, man, this bump, wow, why did I go over this bump? This is just such a huge bump. You just keep going back and forth over it. Have you ever done that? Probably not, right? You probably haven't gone over a bump and then backed up over and then went over it again and back and just keep going back and forth over the bump. That's kind of ridiculous. You might keep driving, so I hope I didn't blow a tire or damage my car if it's a big bump. But if it's a regular bump, you just keep driving forward. You keep moving. It's the same concept, right? You get stuck. You don't stop and back up over it and start thinking, oh, I just got stuck. I hope I don't get stuck again. I hope I don't go over this bump again. Why do I keep going over this bump? And if you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to start dwelling on and thinking about getting stuck, stuttering, stammering. You're going to start thinking about what other people are thinking of you, and it's going to negatively distract you, and it's going to deteriorate your speech. How many of you have ever experienced that? So I have a little poll that I want to ask you, that I want to put up here. So the poll is, let me just launch it here. How often do you dwell on getting stuck? Go ahead and answer this for me. If you will, go ahead and answer this for me. How often do you dwell on getting stuck? That is, you're speaking, how often do you think about, I hope I don't get stuck? Or if you got stuck, how often do you then begin thinking about it or worrying about it? And it might not be conscious, it might almost be subconscious, but rather it's conscious or subconscious. How often do you think about getting stuck? Okay, answer that for me. Go ahead, those of you that are able, go ahead and answer that for me. I'm going to just leave that poll up for a little bit. So the first strategy is to think about getting stuck as simply a bump in the road. Now, don't think that this is not an important strategy, because each of these strategies alone could change how quickly you recover, right? Just one of these strategies could dramatically increase or decrease the time it takes for you to recover. And remember, the more quickly you recover, the easier it is for you to improve your speech. The more quickly you recover, the easier it is, the faster you're going to be able to improve your speech. The longer it takes for you to recover, the more difficult it's going to be for you to improve your speech. So when you see getting stuck as just a part of the process, as a bump in the road, then you're able to recover much quickly. So how do you actually see this process bump in the road? I mean, how do you actually begin to think about it as a bump in the road? Well, you simply tell yourself, right? So when you are speaking and you get stuck, you quickly say, it's okay, it's just a bump in the road. Let me just keep focusing on my message. Let me just keep focusing on what I'm saying, on what I want to accomplish here. So you talk to yourself, you tell yourself, it's just a bump in the road. You can't just tell yourself necessarily once. You might have to keep reminding yourself of this. And this brings us to our second strategy. Our second strategy, I'm going to be checking the poll here. So please go ahead and, if you're able, go ahead and answer the poll here, which says, how often do you dwell on getting stuck? Okay, how often do you dwell on getting stuck? All right, so what's the second strategy here? The second strategy, which ties in with this first one, with the how, is to control your train of thinking. So you've heard me say this before, but you are and want to become the conductor of your own train of thinking. That is, we all have a train or trains of thinking, right? Ways that we think, patterns, habitual patterns of thinking. You heard me use this word before, default. So we all have default ways of thinking that we've been taught through the years. And often the default thinking is to worry, is to be anxious, is to be frustrated, is to say negative things to ourselves before, during, and after speech or other things that we might do, okay? And so you want to learn to control your train of thinking. That is, you want to be the conductor of your train of thinking. And what that means is you're going to want to talk to yourself. You're going to want to learn to talk to yourself. What are you going to say to yourself? Are you going to encourage yourself? You're going to inspire yourself. How do you do that? Well, remember up here, when we talk about the first strategy, which is what? The bump in the road strategy. This is simply a bump in the road. How do you change your perception of when you get stuck, where you tell yourself this is just a bump in the road, don't worry about it? Well, when you control your train of thinking, you talk to yourself. What do you say to yourself? When you're speaking, some of the things you can say to yourself is, just relax, relax, calm down, remember to breathe, stay focused on what you're doing, right? So you talk to yourself, just relax, you can do this. If you've just messed up, you can say, I like myself, I can do this. Because often when you mess up, you beat yourself up and you feel bad. So what you can do is you can say, hey, I like myself, I feel great, I can do this. So what, I just messed up. Everyone messes up. And so someone says, well, Michael, how can I be thinking all this stuff while I'm trying to speak, while I'm trying to think about what it is that I'm saying? Well, here's the answer. You already do think about other stuff while you're speaking. What are you talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. Have you ever been speaking and all of a sudden you get distracted thinking about what other people are thinking of you? Have you ever been speaking, gotten distracted, and started thinking about, I hope I don't get stuck, or I just got stuck and I hope I don't get stuck again, or here comes a word that I don't think I can say. Well, let me think about how else I can say this. Has that ever happened to any of you? Has that ever happened to any of you? And the answer is probably so, right? That probably all of you have thought about other things while you've been speaking and you've gotten distracted. That proves that you're able to think about other things while you're speaking because you've already done it. And often it has distracted you in a negative way. It was a negative distraction. I wrote an article about this on LinkedIn, and I also recorded an audio. If you haven't seen that or you don't have it, send me an email and I'll send you a link to it, okay, along with the audio. But I call these negative distractions and also positive distractions or distractors. So you already have the capability and capacity to think of other things while you're speaking. So why not control that train of thinking, control your train of thinking by talking to yourself while you're speaking, reminding yourself, it's okay, just relax, breathe, calm down, I like myself, or you can say, I like myself. You can say, you like yourself. You're doing well, right? Encourage yourself while you're speaking. How do I know this works? As my clients tell me. In fact, I just had a client, young guy. You can read his review on my website. And we started, it's been a couple of months now, and he graduated college. He's working in a bank, and he had struggled through his interviews, so he wasn't able to get the kinds of jobs that he wanted. And he writes in his review, I was broke. Essentially, I was broke. I had a little bit of money in the bank, and I'd been following you for a while, and I wanted to get a better job, and I believed that you could help me do that. And so I took this last bit of money that I had, and I paid for coaching. And he did that. This was just a couple of months ago, like just recently. And within less than a few weeks, he had a job offer. He got a job offer because he had improved in his ability to interview, right? Just from a couple of weeks of us working together. Well, not only did he get that one job offer, which increased his income, I'm not sure how much it was, but it was quite a bit. But over the last couple of weeks, he got a second job offer, which effectively doubled his income from when we started. This is within 8 weeks. It's less than 8 weeks. This young guy got two job offers. He actually took both of them. He took the one, and then he got another one, and then he took that job. He's now a financial analyst, and he doubled his income from the time that we started. I have more stories like this, right? This is not just a one-time thing. I have other stories, one or two of which I'll share with you later. But one of the things he said to me that I remember is he reminded himself, you can do this. Speaking is easy for you, right? And you'll read that in his reviews. Speaking is easy for you now. We said something like that. Speaking is easy for you. This is easy. You can do. So he talked to himself. He controlled his train of thinking. Okay. That's the second strategy. So what was the first strategy? The first strategy was what? Is the bump in the road, right? It's just a bump in the road. How do you implement that strategy? You talk to yourself. You remind yourself it's just a bump in the road. It's just okay. It's fine. Keep going. Second strategy, control your train of thinking. Don't let yourself default to the negative. Control your train of thinking. Encourage yourself by talking to yourself, right? This is not just something that you can do once, but you have to continuously remind yourself, okay, that it's okay, you like yourself, you're doing well, you can do this. Keep focusing on what you're doing. It's just a bump in the road. You talk to yourself. The third strategy, let's talk about this third strategy here. This third strategy is to snap your attention, snap your attention back. Snap your attention back. I want you to remember this word, snap, snap. Remember the word, remember the sound. Snap your attention back. So it's like you're looking back here. Let's say you just got stuck. You're looking back. Snap your attention back, right? Snap your attention back to what? So I'm going to give you two things that you can snap your attention back to, maybe three things you can snap your attention back to. The first thing, and this is clarity and impact. I'm making this one, right? Clarity and impact, but you could say that it's two. So when I'm speaking, actually, the only thing I'm thinking about is how can I make this clear, and how can I make it impactful? How can I have an impact on the person or people that I'm talking to? So let's talk about clarity. Remember, you're going to snap your attention back. Snap it back to what? So what we call a positive distractor. So rather than allowing yourself to default and to drift off and to start thinking things that's going to detract from your speech, that's going to deteriorate your speech, you what? Snap your attention back to a positive distractor. And this is one positive distractor, which is clarity and impact. So you think about, how can I make this as clear as possible? In an interview, again, my client, when he was in the interview, he prepared for the interview, And he just kept thinking, how can I make this clear? How can I communicate? How can I respond to these questions as clearly as possible? When you're doing a presentation like I'm doing now, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, it's subconscious, how can I make this as clear as possible? So with clarity, you want to look at two areas, two aspects of clarity. One has to do with style, and the other has to do with structure. What do I mean by style? Style, I mean, how am I articulating? Am I mumbling? Am I speaking so fast that a person can't understand me? Am I speaking so low? All right. So you want to make sure that your style of speaking allows you to communicate whatever it is that you're communicating clearly so that they can hear it. They can hear it. Structure, that's style, right? That's part of style. It's not all of style, right? But I'm going to talk about some other aspects of style as well. Structure. So how is the information structured? Is it structured in a way that it's clear? Or is it all fumbled up? Is it arranged in such a way that people are not able to follow what you're saying? So style, can they hear and understand what I'm saying? Am I speaking in a way that makes it easy for them to hear and understand me? And have I structured this information? This could be even a conversation that you're having with a supervisor. It could be a status report. It could be a presentation that you're doing. It could be an interview. Is my style clear? And is the way that I've structured this clearly? In the Pro 90 speech system, we address both of those areas, not just how you structure. See, many speech programs on as improving your public speaking skills, overcoming fear, often have to do with structure. Some of them touch on style. We cover both style, how you articulate, how you use your body, how you emphasize certain words, all of those things, right? So that's clarity. You want to make sure that what you're saying is clear. Because if it's not clear, then people are going to be confused. They are not going to be satisfied with your speech. They're not going to get the information that they need from you, right? Impact. Okay, so impact. How is what I'm saying going to impact my audience? Now, I'm going to share with you how you can accomplish these things. I've already alluded to it, but you may not have caught it. But impact. So how is this impacting? Impact has more to do with style than structure, but structure is there too. So what do I mean? Impact. I mean, am I speaking in such a way that it's going to influence or persuade the person or people that I'm talking to? So a few things that you want to remember with impact. Number one, when you're communicating, you're probably going to be doing one or all three of these things, one or two or all three of these things. Informing, just giving you information, just giving you information. Don't expect you to do anything, but it's just an informational briefing or whatever, just giving you information. Two, inspiring. I want you to feel good as a result of what I'm saying. I want to inspire you to action, right? Instructing, I actually want to teach you how to do something, right? So I don't just want to inspire you. I don't just want to give you information. I want to inform you, but I want to instruct. So here's how to do this. Step one, step two, step three. You can do all three of those things. You can inform, you can inspire, and you can instruct. So therefore, when you're trying to impact someone, when you're trying to speak persuasively, you may be in a situation where you want people to take action. If you're in sales, you want people to take action. When you give them information, you want them to feel inspired and motivated, and you want to maybe instruct them what steps to take next. If you're a teacher, if you're giving a status update or whatever it is, you're going to want to impact people. You want them to remember what you said, and when necessary, you're going to want and need them to be able to take action on what you've said. So therefore, you want to impact them, and you have to ask yourself, how do I want to impact them? So how do we keep our mind focused? We're talking about how do I recover quickly when I get stuck. You snap your attention back by asking yourself a couple of questions. Number one, how can I make this clear? How can I make this clear? How can I make this as clear as possible? That's a positive distractor. In other words, if I'm thinking about, now listen, I want you to watch this closely. Watch this. If I'm thinking about how can I say what I'm saying as clearly as possible, then I can't be thinking about, oh, I just got stuck. I hope I don't get stuck. What are they thinking of me? Does that make sense, right? So I'm positively distracting myself by thinking about something that's going to help me communicate clearly. It's going to help me further what it is that I'm trying. It's going to help me achieve the goal of my presentation, of my speech, of my interview. Clarity, all right? Clear. In a job interview, you want it to be clear what your skills are and why you're a good fit. If you're giving a status update, you want it to be clear about what you've been doing and what areas you have yet to do. If you're giving a presentation, you want it to be clear what it is that you're talking about, how it's going to impact them, and what steps they need to take next. So you ask yourself, how can I make this clear? That's a positive distractor. Impact, you want to ask yourself, man, how can I say this so that it positively impacts them? What is it that I need to do with my body language? What is it that I need to do with my face, my eyes? What is it that I need to do with my voice so that I'm not speaking in a monotone, or I'm not speaking so fast that people can't understand me, right? So what you want to just ask yourself, how can I impact the people that I'm speaking to in this moment? Now, here's the funny thing about when you ask a question. When you ask yourself a question, what your brain does is it goes in and starts looking for the answer, and it tries to answer that question. So while I'm speaking, if I'm asking myself, okay, how can I say this clearly? How can I say this clearly? My brain is going to go in and it's going to say, you can say this clearly by making sure you do this and making sure you do. And this is all happening in milliseconds. It's happening almost subconsciously. As long as you just have the intention and you just say to yourself, how can I be clear? How can I be clear? Your brain will do the rest, right? Now, this takes some practice. This takes some practice, but just by asking yourself these questions, how can I be clear? How can I make an impact? Your brain will go in and it'll find ways to make it more clear, to help you to have a greater impact. And if you don't know how, then you'll know that and you'll say, I need to get some training to help me speak more clearly, to help me have a greater impact when I'm speaking. And then you'll build the skills necessary for your brain to use when you ask these questions. Does that make sense? Okay, clarity and impact. So remember, you want to snap your attention back. So clarity and impact. So what's a second thing that you can focus on? A second thing you can focus on is your model. And some of you have heard me talk about modeling. Modeling is from something called observational learning, and it's a natural way of learning. It's the way you learned how to talk, you learn how to do a lot of the things that you already do. It's a way that athletes, musicians, and speakers, and experts, artists learn by modeling someone else, and then they become experts in their own right. So modeling is very natural. If people say, oh, that doesn't work, blah, blah, it's already been working, right, on them. People who say, oh, that doesn't work, it's already worked, right? The reason that they're able to do half the stuff they do is because they've modeled someone else, okay? This is how we learn things. It's one of the ways that we learn. It's not the only way, but it's one powerful way that we've learned. Okay, so modeling then is a very powerful way to learn how to speak well. And you have to put some time, you have to put some energy into it. But one of the reasons that modeling is so important to help you snap your attention back is because if you have a model and you've been studying that model, you have to study your model to make a mental impression. You and I learn things by what we see and hear and say and do, right? So you observe your model, right? You observe your model, you make literally a mental impression of how your model speaks, how your model sounds, how your model moves. You even get a sense of the confidence level of your model. And then you snap your attention back to, how would my model say this? How would my model speak in this situation? How does my model sound? The rhythm of the cadence, their voice inflections, their body language, their hand gestures, their facial, right? All those things you focus on while you're speaking. Remember, when people say, well, I can't think about all that while I'm speaking, well, you already do. When you start getting distracted with, oh, I just messed up, or what are they thinking of me? You're already distracted, right? You have enough mental space to actually focus on saying whatever you're saying like your model would. This isn't something you have to do forever. It's really temporary, right? Until you've created your new speaking style. Now, some people don't want to create a new speaking style. They just want to fix elements of their speech. And that's certainly possible. That's certainly possible. The Pro90 speech system goes beyond that. We help you create a new way of speaking. And it's not a weird way. It's a way that people are going to admire. Just had 2 people just this past week. One person in South Africa, one person in San Francisco. One guy I've been working with for a few months, one guy I've been working with for a little longer. And the one guy in San Francisco won for the second time his Toastmasters competition. Won for a second time. The guy in South Africa actually didn't win, but the comments he got was like, we never knew, we wouldn't believe that you ever struggled with your speech. You sound like a seasoned speaker. We love the way that you spoke. It was excellent, you did an excellent job. So he didn't win, but he did well, and the feedback was all positive. Another guy that just graduated, he did a Toastmaster speech, didn't win, but did an excellent job and got great feedback. Some of the same kind, oh, that was very smooth, and oh, that was very clear, and it was very powerful, right? So you don't have to win. I have a lot of clients who win Toastmasters and other speaking events, and I have some that just do very well. These are all people who struggle with their speech, some severely, right? Some not so severely. They still struggle. They would have never done Toastmasters, and they did. And one of the things that they did is they modeled. What's important about modeling is modeling helps you change your identity. So for some of you who are listening, stuttering or stammering or whatever, however you struggle with your speech, has impacted your very identity. That is, stuttering or stammering can alter a person's personality. Sometimes they want to be outgoing, but they're not because of their speech. There's things that they want to do. There's jobs they want to get. There's people that they want to speak to. They don't because of their speech. Their speech has been limiting them. So it changes certain aspects of their personality. Not everyone, but some people. Some people identify themselves, I'm a stutterer, or I have this problem with my speech. I've always had this problem. So they identify themselves as a person who stutters or stammers or struggles with their speech. What modeling helps you do is more quickly change your identity. Why? Because you associate your identity with that of your models. You actually see yourself as being your model, as speaking like your model, as being as confident as your model. So you can snap your attention back in the moment to your model, right? Okay, so you just messed up, okay, no problem. How would my model say this? How would my model speak? How would my model feel right now? How would my model act right now? You snap your attention back to your model. And then the final thing we can look at here, and this is really just a bonus, is a specific skill. For example, airflow. So how many of you actually struggled with getting started speaking? That is, you have a difficult time getting started. How many of you have struggled with maintaining airflow? That is, you speak choppy. You start, start, and stop. How many of you forgotten to breathe while you were speaking? Right? You're just speaking and you run out of air, right? How many of you have ever struggled with that? Okay, probably a lot of you. So one thing that you can focus on, this is temporary, this isn't forever. This is temporary until it becomes a skill. You already know how to breathe naturally. You already know how to maintain airflow. But for some reason, in certain situations and circumstances, you've developed a habit or a pattern of not maintaining airflow, of not speaking smoothly and fluently and confidently, okay? Could be in interviews, it could be with someone that you don't know, or it could be when introducing yourself, or it could be with someone in authority. Like, all these situations can prompt this different way of speaking. So you can focus, for example, on maintaining airflow while you speak, on making sure that you breathe rhythmically and regularly and naturally while you're speaking, making sure that you're breathing, and while you're speaking, you're maintaining airflow. So you can snap your attention back to that while you're speaking, which is a positive distractor. Right? It allows you to focus on something that's going to help you speak smoother, more fluently, more clearly, more calmly, more confidently. Does that make sense? So here are 3 things that you can focus on. You don't have to focus on all three of them at the same time. You can pick one. You may change. You may say, okay, I'm talking around, I'm just going to focus on clarity. Some of you don't need to focus on a skill. You can just focus on this. Some of you need to focus on a model, which will help you do these other things. Some of you may just need to focus on modeling, right? Whatever it is, you want to try these, right? Try them because they're all positive distractors. So what are the three strategies that you can use to more quickly recover? The first strategy was what? The bump in the road, right? Just look at it like a bump in the road. How do you do that? You remind yourself, you talk to yourself. Don't just try to talk to yourself once and say it once, say, oh, it didn't work. You have to keep talking to yourself. If you feel like you keep getting distracted, then you keep talking to yourself saying it's just a bump in the road. It's okay. I like myself. So you bump in the road. Second strategy was what? Second strategy is to control your train of thinking, right? So you talk to yourself. You encourage yourself. You say, you know what? I like myself. I like myself. I can do this. Just relax. Remember to breathe. You remind yourself, how do I know this? My clients tell me this is what they've done. And it's helped them in their interviews and presentations. And then the third strategy that we talked about is to snap your attention back. Remember that sound, remember that word. Because when you're speaking, you just want to think, snap my attention back. Snap it back to what? Clarity and impact. Snap it back to how would my model speak? Snap it back. Let me make sure that I'm maintaining airflow while I'm